This may be a Katsuro kimono film for many people. It is also their childhood shadow. I watched one of the clips that caused me not to dare to use the toilet for a long time. And what many viewers don't know is that the ending of the film also hides an unknown secret. The story takes place on a luxury cruise ship. This is the world's most expensive sea transportation tool, built by a well-known rich businessman. So those who are qualified to board the ship are all famous and wealthy people who have a lot of money. Just when they are enjoying the most exquisite life on the sea, someone secretly destroyed the operating system of the cruise ship. After the crew saw the alert issued by the mainframe, they confirmed the door. He thought he could escape, but he was terrified and found something coming out of the toilet. It grabbed his ass tightly. At the same time, a smuggler came here. Captain Jack just took a big fire and was going to take a group of mercenaries to deliver important goods. According to the rules, he never asked what was in the box of the owner. But the mechanic, Roy, felt something was wrong, so he came to the warehouse and secretly opened the box, but he didn't know that it was full of fish. When Roy was shocked and couldn't speak, a mercenary suddenly appeared behind him and felled him hard on the ground. Listening to the sound of Roy being beaten by the captain, his girlfriend Lila asked Jack to help save him. Jack has been people left. They took out the weapon in the box. Gentlemen, say hello to the Chinese M1L1 triple pulse assault rifle. Rotating barrel, 1,000-round capacity, auto-cooling, watertight. At this time, the jets who were driving the ship suddenly found that all the soldiers had gone outside. They made a hole in the bow of the ship, and then they planned to load the torpedoes on it. Not waiting for the jets to stop them, the radar suddenly detected an obstacle, and then the ship hit something on it, causing a big hole on the right side. The engine was overheated and lost power quickly, and everyone rushed out to put out the fire. However, the engine was badly damaged, and if it could not be rescued, the ship would be completely paralyzed in 20 minutes of operation. This time, Lila finally saw what she had hit. It was a life-saving method. And just not far from them, a luxury cruise ship was floating quietly on the sea. Roy soon came up with the idea that if he could go to the cruise ship to get some parts, he would be able to fix this ship soon. But at this time, the employees forcibly took over the ship and forcibly drove towards the cruise ship before the engine was completely blown up. Cabin door at the entrance, and then the captain asked a subordinate to stay here. The supervisor came to fix the ship and then took Jack and Roy into the cruise ship. But what made them feel strange was that such a luxurious cabin was extremely cold. So they rushed into the party center. The hall, which was originally gilded, seemed to have just been bombed. A thick layer of snow has solidified on the large gambling table. I'm afraid there are too few people here. Suddenly, the elevator started up itself. Everyone was nervous and pointed their guns at the door. However, as the elevator door slowly opened, there was still nothing inside. Next, they began to search everywhere, but they were terrified to thought it was Jack who killed his companion. But the two of them had no iron in their hands. How could they turn him into a meat paste in an instant? A strange voice came out again. "You gotta get out of here. There's something down here." "Shut up. Just shut the fuck up. There's nothing down here but you and me." A big living person was dragged away in an instant. Jack told Roy to take the parts and run away quickly, because the things in the water had rushed towards them. At the same time, the captain rushed to the vault with his men. As a result, he met a red-clothed beauty as soon as he entered the door. This is the first living person he's met since pushed to the machine room. And Twilian, who had just escaped, ran into Jack in the elevator. The mercenaries followed, and the captain thought it was Jack who killed his two men. But before they could explain, Fushan took the initiative to clear his name. He claimed there was a monster here, and the whole cruise ship had been taken over by them. The captain was about to ask what kind of monster it was, but the elevator was suddenly grabbed by a force, and it began to climb up quickly. After reaching the highest point, it suddenly fell suddenly. Fortunately, the emergency system of the elevator played a role. They weren't injured, but after a few people saw the situation around them, they were shocked and couldn't say anything. The floor was covered in human remains. The wall looked like it had been brushed with blood. It is said that the human world is just like this. When the two sides continued to face each other with guns, the steel door at the end of the corridor came up with an adventurous way. He deliberately destroyed the operating system so that the cruise ship would be lost and drift on the sea. In the end, because of the out-of-hand silence, after 24 hours as planned, he arranged a rescue ship to take everyone away. And the employees will rush to clean up the gold and jewelry so that they can get insurance money from the bank. Unexpectedly, the cruise was attacked by a monster and most of the passengers were eaten. After hearing such a heartless plan, the captain couldn't help but beat the vice minister. Just when they were arguing, Roy suddenly felt that something was dripping.
The rough hand kept moving, and in the end, a man came out of it. Although he had been digested, there was only half left, but his companions could see at a glance that he was the employee who had been dragged away before. The man struggled twice, and there was no movement. At this time, the hand came to them again. A few people ran away to find a way out. In the process of escaping, Cillian and Jack met in the corridor. He hoped the other party could save himself and leave. "You get me to your boat, and I can have whatever I want." "Yeah, whatever you want." "Can you get me a cold beer?" Suddenly, a shooter came over and ran away. Jack fell to the ground and threw the gun aside. The huge shooter kept pushing in. Jack wanted to get his weapon back, but the sound was heard by the monster. He only saw the end of the trigger slowly open, and there was a mouth full of lychee inside. Jack thought he was escaping in a difficult situation, but the killer was forced to retreat by Syrian guns. It turned out that he did not abandon Jack, but went back to get the weapon. This made Jack very moved. He swore that he would take him with him to leave. Not long after, the surviving few people reunited again. After the previous few fights, Fushan guessed the origin of the monster. This may be a monster similar to the Mongolian death insect. They were about the same size as a pencil, but these and the crews obviously mutated, and their IQ also soared, and they knew to hide in the dark and attack. Alright, that's it. Lesson's over. Jack set his escape plan. Now their only way to survive is to return to Jack's ship, fix the engine, and leave this damn place. Others think this is a good idea, and as the builder of this cruise ship, Fushan knows all the routes inside. Under his leadership, everyone rushed to the exit. However, not long after, the road ahead was flooded by seawater. They can only swim 20 meters through the corridor. But no one dared to make sure if there were any monsters in it. For safety, Jack and a mercenary went to the front to explore the road first. The environment under the water is complicated, but there is no danger. At this time, a few people who stayed no one cared about safety, and everyone jumped into the water to escape. However, the last mercenary was soon caught up by the monster. He remembered that only half of his teammates had been digested before. He decided to pull out a grenade and chose to die with the monster. At this time, the others had already hidden in the kitchen, but Jack wanted to open the door and leave. The monster's IQ is higher than expected. If they stay here, they will be found sooner or later. However, the hired soldier, who was frightened, warns Jack not to open the door. Just as they were about to leave, everyone suddenly looked behind the hired soldier. "You want some? You're nothing. Eat him." This is when Roy realized that the captain wanted to use him as the monster. At this critical moment, Roy actually found the elevator to deliver food. He went in and ran away by accident. He ran back to the lobby and wanted to take a break. "I didn't expect to meet the captain again. It's just that the other party has been swallowed by the monster." Roy was kind enough to leave the pistol and let him have a good time. "I didn't expect the captain to have no conscience." He raised his hand and gave Roy a gun. It's just that when he aimed his gun at himself, he found that there was only one bullet in the gun. So the next thing to wait for him will be the painful process of being slowly digested by the monster. Not long after, Roy returned to the speedboat and found that his girlfriend Lila had disappeared, and Jack was studying the torpedo. Due to the loss of parts, the engine could not be repaired. The employee had already installed a torpedo holder on the bow, so he wanted to fix the torpedo on it, then set the forward route of the yacht and let him hit the oil wheel and blow the monster to death. Just when the two were installing the torpedo, Cillian returned to the oil wheel to find the key to the motorboat. Unexpectedly, the rich merchant also found her and threatened her with a signal gun to hand over the key. The two chased all the way to the hall. Just when the rich merchant was about to succeed, Jack finally rushed over was not the so-called mutated insect. They were just part of the monster's body. The body is more like a mutated giant octopus. His body is estimated to be as big as half a cruise ship. Jack accidentally rolled into the air by the monster. Huge glasses keep shining on him. The monster hurriedly threw Jack on the ground. He took the opportunity to escape, but when he returned to the speedboat, Jack only found a hat stuck all over his face. It seems that Roy is afraid that there are too many men and too few machines, so he set the autopilot and then returned to the cruise ship to prepare to leave with Cillian. But the monster chased him again. First of all, the male lead was originally chosen by Harrison Ford. He was on the front line of Star Wars at the time, but after reading the script, he thought that the character of the male lead was too similar to Sora, so he delayed the invitation. In the end, the male lead fell into the hands of Willis. Although he is also famous, he is definitely not as good as the last one, and this also caused Disney to cut costs, only left the movie with a budget of $45 million. A large part of this is to make special effects for the industrial screen, so the crew can only cut as much as possible. But this is not the worst. Later, when the film was released, Disney chose to postpone it in order to avoid the popular film. As a result, it happens to meet the invincible Titanic, which caused the ticket price to only be $11 million. The film company also went bankrupt directly, and this also gave birth to a great regret. In fact, the last suspense left by the film was not to shoot a sequel, but to open the King Kong series. The number of screams and ups and downs